Good evening and welcome to the Standards of Geekness podcast, Return of the Geeks, episode 2. It's funny, the world ended, but it kind of felt meh.
It felt really blasé. I was enjoying that little intro music.
Yeah,
I
I'm,
was
I'm,
jamming.
I'm poking around with StreamYard and getting to learn the new tools and updates, especially as I'm looking at branching out and doing Twitch streaming and stuff too. So I'm learning as I'm going, so it's an interesting experience. Yeah.
Um, but I
I,
mean, I think that says it all right there. I was more interested by the 30-second countdown and little music intro to our podcast tonight than I was to World's End. As a matter of fact, I didn't watch World's End. I was catching up on it. Catching up on the results, and dead honest, like even trying to get through, ups and downs, that was even difficult. You
yeah.
know, how am I supposed to care about MJF versus Adam Cole? I don't. I said to you before we started, it's nice that you're doing something with Okada now, but I feel like you wasted his debut. That he's more or less the Bret Hart of he's Bret Hart in WCW, except say EW and Okada now. Same thing.
Yeah, it's honestly, I can't say that I disagree with you at all. For me, it's just kind of I was fine with Okada being a heel because he actually originally did when he came back to New Japan was a heel, and the whole Rainmaker gimmick was a heel gimmick. I was fine with that. I was even fine with him joining the Bucks and being part of the Elite and like being a heel. But since the Bucks left, they really haven't done a whole lot with him other than he goes and says bitch.
Oh,
Like
oh, quick question: what have the Bucks really done? Like since AEW started, there was a time when the Young Bucks were like a revolutionary tag team having revolutionary matches. And I really don't feel that way about the Bucks anymore.
yeah, my my problem with the Bucks is that the whole being the elite thing was cool in 2018, 2019, 2020 even with the launch of AEW. It was cool. But it I don't know if you remember the scene in Family Guy where they're drowning inside the escape room or whatever it is where they're like and Peter says I have something to tell you all and he says I did not care for the Godfather 3 and they ask him why and he says it insists upon itself. That's the Young Bucks. It insists upon itself. I don't want to. I'm tired of super kicks not. I'm tired of finishers not mattering. The super kick used to be a finisher. It used to mean something. I'm tired of seeing it from the Usos too. I really wish they would change it up. When the Young Bucks come back, I need them to be more technically sound. Develop something slightly unique. Make me give a shit about them again. Like AEW used to be a bright shining spot. And like we talked about last week, CM Punk, the whole fallout there, they haven't been the same since. They're trying to recapture some of that magic. The problem is, you're not going to recapture that without some type of strife, without some type of change.
I think part of my issue with the show, with the way that things have been going, specifically with Okada, with the Bucks, with the return of Kenny Omega. Look, call this a hot take if you want. I don't think, as a wrestling fan, I should have had to have watched 8 other promotions' products over the last 10 years in order to enjoy what's happening right now. It's
It's
great that you're building on history and everything, but, like, okay,
acknowledge it and
conversely,
move on.
yeah, you can tell me that it happened. That's what you got commentators. That's what you got announcers for. But I do not want to have to feel like I have to like go and find some match from 2001 you know, just to know what's going on now, and that that's not storytelling. That's or maybe it is, but it's bad storytelling if it is.
Well,
You're
eh,
every one of these and I feel this way with the indie scene sometimes. You got all these individual wrestlers and they all have their individual stories. And like Jimmy over here, he knows his story, whether he's in Michigan or Indiana or Ohio or Pennsylvania, wherever, right?
mhm,
But that doesn't mean the fans fucking do. And if the
exactly.
fans don't know your story, then it doesn't matter what your story is. Who are you telling it for?
Well, and it kind of, I'm fine with them building on stories and building on history and acknowledging history. I think that's important. I think ignoring history is part of the WWE pitfall trap we had for decades with Vince in charge. You can't pretend
Agreed.
someone's history doesn't matter. Just that's not how life works. I can't, we couldn't pretend that you and I have been friends for 20 years just to like sell a show and then, oh, turns out we did know each other. Like you can't pretend like if you're kayfabing it, it's one thing. If you're in the story, that's one thing. But stop treating your audience like they're stupid. And I honestly think AEW needs to go back to basics. I'm fine with having some of the flippy shit. I'm fine with having technically sound wrestling. I'm fine with you acknowledging history. But for fuck's sake, make it matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at World's End, there were things I liked. This Tony Storm coming back as an amnesiac, I love it. Like she's no longer knows she's timeless Tony Storm, which was a gold gimmick. She's a rookie, more or less, and she's playing it to a T. WWE missed the boat on her. I'm just saying it. They did Hunter.
Yeah, that 100%.
You guys dropped the ball with her.
No,
Um,
I think at World's End did have like I'm not gonna say it was a total like shit show.
it
You
was
know,
mid.
I actually did go and actually watch the Will Ospreay matches, but that's you know that has more to do with the fact that Will Ospreay is an incredible talent than anything that AEW specifically was producing.
Hey, Gaming Slam Zone 34. Thank you for the comment. What's up with you? We're doing good.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually kind of intrigued with Jeff Jarrett with what they're doing with this whole. He's teasing retirement or teasing something. I'm kind of hoping we get a Mark Henry out of it.
Jeff Jarrett is it's weird because back in the late '90s, early 2000s, I had go away heat kind of like or not or I felt that way about Jeff Jarrett. I hated Jeff Jarrett. I just
I,
didn't want to see him on my television, and it actually was something that pushed me away from early TNA. I think it might have been the Vince Russo rub,
yeah, he did.
whatever.
I think he had a lot of the Vince Russo stink on him, and I think that was unfortunate. I've gone back and I've rewatched a lot of that, and I've realized that I didn't like Jeff Jarrett at any point during his career. He was a good bad guy. He did have go away with me, especially in TNA for a long time. But I've gone back and honestly, despite his issues, he's been a solid worker. He's been a solid talent, and he's done well to rehabilitate himself and to help push a new generation forward. So I'm thankful for that.
He's gotten he's gotten remarkably better with age.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I
I
mean,
love seeing him. I love the idea of him coming and being that vet now because he, excuse me, he is still in good enough ring shape. He's still able to put on good matches. He works a very safe and conservative style, which I like. And I think that he actually has a lot to offer in modern professional wrestling because when you have this era where everybody's doing 1,000 super kicks, um, to have someone going back to fundamentals
Yeah.
is
Well,
refreshing.
that's kind of what pisses me off a little bit about like I guess not pisses me off, but like it's made me realize that like I feel like I'm one of those old heads now. But the package pile driver. Let's talk about that. KO
Let's
right
talk
now.
about it.
That's his finisher, right?
What do you want to talk about? Sorry, I had to do the Cody thing.
Mid. Um.
Wounded.
No, I love Cody Rhodes. I think the booking lately has been kind of at least leading up before the KO thing. So KO, his finisher right now is the package pile driver. It's being sold as a monster like move. Randy Orton's been on the shelf for what 2 months now because of it. Cody Rhodes sold it for a few weeks because of it. He didn't get up. They didn't get up. They didn't try to move on to the next match. And I kind of wonder if they're you know it matters more now, and I appreciate that. But I forget what match I was watching. I think it was Mariah May and Thunder Rosa. There was a package pile driver, and they immediately both of them got back up, and it was like moving on to the next move, moving on to the next move, moving on to the next move. The art of the sell is gone. That's. I don't mind the occasional no
The
sell,
art of the
but
sell in
whenever,
AEW is clear. The art of the sell in AEW is gone. The art of the
yeah,
sell
that's what I
isn't
mean.
gone overall. It's being picked back up in WWE. I think
Yeah,
that's your
well,
point.
yeah, that's what I mean here is the art of selling is gone in AEW, and if they really want to continue to build on the success of this new AEW Max deal, which I'm excited for because that means I can actually watch it live uh, instead of having to watch it on YouTube or like on a catch-up show later. They have to make it matter for the
Ah,
fans.
I lost my background. Oh,
Hey, we all got to record where we've got to record.
it's the only quiet room in the house.
We've all been there. But yeah,
Ah,
I mean, for me, it's just there's bright spots. Sorry, guys, COVID messed my lungs up a long time ago, and when I get a cough, it just strikes a lot. Um, Osprey versus Kyle Fletcher. That's one of the best opening matches. It reminded me a lot of cruiserweight matches, WCW late '90s. It was high action, high octane, just go. But it had the same problem: the selling. It was move to move to move. Towards the end, Osprey was selling. He was busted open. He was selling being weak. That saved it in my opinion. But I'm really it's exhausting. You can't and we've talked about this when we've done podcasts in the past. We talked about it when we used to book HKW. You can't have high spot, high spot, high spot, high spot. Your audience will get exhausted. It is exhausting.
yeah.
Um
No, it really is. Actually, I remember. So, uh, I was at a show. This is a Raw years ago. Actually, kind of a cool moment. There's only one time in wrestling history that The Rock and Eddie Guerrero faced off. It was in the main event of Raw in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was there. The thing was, is in the arena, they weren't getting popped. They weren't getting the reaction you would expect for wrestlers of that caliber. And the reason why is just before that, Shawn Michaels and Triple H had come out. DX had reunited, and then Triple H had turned on Shawn, pedigreed him, left him laying. The entire crowd was emotionally just like, brought up and then immediately
yeah.
drained, which is the reaction that they wanted for that moment. But then you get into the main event, and we were
I
all pulled out of it.
I
That
personally think
booking.
they should have flipped it. It should have been that moment should have went on last.
I
See that
100%
that's the
agree.
thing is any event I've ever booked, whether indie or like helped write anything, we've always plugged and played with where things need to be placed throughout the show. Pacing matters. I, you want to start the show hot and end you want to end the show well and hot, but hot in the end is different than hot in the beginning. Hot in the end
That's
can
true.
mean the emotional high of the babyface going over. It could also mean the oxygen getting taken out of the fucking room, like you said, the emotional draining. It's like something is getting the soul sucked out of it.
Well,
And
I know we've got. Oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. I was
No, go
sorry to cut you off.
ahead. I was
Oh, I just
moving on to
know
the
that
next segment.
we got a fun night. We got a fun night planned. So how about this? Scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to 10. Where are you leaving World's End? What's your score for it?
5 out of 10. Right in the
5 out of 10.
bottom.
It's about 4 for me. So
Yeah,
we're
like
gonna go 4.5 from the SOG on World's End. That's a nice the
yeah.
average there.
I mean, honestly, the my favorite part might have been the whole Ricochet getting pelted with toilet paper. That was pretty funny.
That was pretty funny, and he's all set for the next COVID outbreak. So that's good stuff for him. Doesn't have to go to Walmart or anything.
Yeah, he's really got a finger on
Got to figure out something.
it. Yeah, so we've got a busy night tonight. So, for those of you, before we get into the WrestleMania challenge that we announced a few weeks ago, we wanted to take a minute to kind of not a moment of silence, but to just recognize a fallen friend of ours. It's the reason we didn't record last week. One of my best friends in the world, Anthony Lehrman, passed away tragically on the 19th of December. Just as a reminder, guys, don't drink and drive. It's a mistake. If you live in the Southwest Michigan area and you need a ride and you're drinking, call an Uber or call me. Okay. I've spent a lot of time burying friends and family for dumb reasons, and it's been a heartbreaking reason for me and my friends.
Anthony was, Evan and I originally met playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Anthony was another player with us, and some of my best memories from the game, my time playing the game, were with Anthony. He's one of my favorite opponents, to be perfectly honest. And
Yeah,
I think what really has been like jarring to me about this is talking to people I haven't spoken to in years, um, as a result of us all just dealing with a loss
yeah.
that
I've reconnected with some friends that I haven't talked to in a while due to various reasons. And the funeral service was beautiful. We got together and got a little etched necklace thing for his mom to remember him by. It has his face on it, and I'm thankful for every single opportunity that I had to hang out with Anthony. You know, we were both Colorado Avalanche fans living in a Detroit Red Wings area, so we bonded over sports. We bonded over Yu-Gi-Oh. We became lifelong friends, and it breaks my heart that he's not here. And yeah, it's been hard.
I didn't tell you this before. The one thing that you sent me that picture of him with the obituary in the Facebook, and it threw me off so much because he wasn't wearing a baseball cap,
Yeah,
and I don't know if I ever saw him without a baseball cap on.
I think I definitely can count on the number of appendages that I have, the number of times I've seen him without a hat on in 20 years. Yeah, it's tragic. Like I said, guys, don't drink and drive. Life gets hard. Reach out to those who care about you. Talk to people. You have health issues. Talk to people. You're going through something. Talk to people. Brian and Mai's inbox are open. Whether we've been good friends or whether you just need a non-judgmental ear, talk to those who you love. All right, well, let's dive into the WrestleMania challenge. I
I
think
really
we
kind
kind of.
of jump
Hey,
uphill
I
with
like
that
my
one, aren't
low
you?
and then I like my high.
All right, that's the pacing you're talking about in the show.
Pacing.
All right, so we did have a couple of little rules that we went with going into this little WrestleMania challenge. Number one being that we did go with the assumption that the main event will be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some controversy about that or whatever. You might not like that, but as of right now, with the latest reporting, that's what we've been hearing.
Yep, and and then we also went on the assumption that Cody Rhodes would be involved in the other main event. So those were kind of the constructs we worked on. I think we've found a good rhythm with, at least for me, focusing on the lower card to build out. And obviously, there's going to be a lot more matches than we cover. When Mania happens, we'll talk about all of them. We'll do a compare and contrast afterwards too, just to see if we were right or if we were wrong.
I think it'll actually be really interesting to see how many matches are on the full WrestleMania card this year, considering Triple H has pulled back the number of matches on pay-per-view cards a little bit since taking over. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. With the introduction of the new titles, it's been, I wouldn't call it bloated, but they're going to be hard pressed to find space. Like, I'm at the point where Mania could almost be a 3-nighter. Like, that's how talented, how deep they are right now.
Well, with the way the NXT goes, it pretty much is.
I mean, yeah. Add that in the 4 nights and add the Hall of Fame for fifth. Whole Mania week.
The Hall of Fame.
Vince McMahon's.
The way they run it in those cities, it is. When WWE came to Detroit for SummerSlam, that's how it was, man. It was a straight week of WWE here. It was great.
Yeah. From what I was hearing, New Orleans is like that when they were down there a few years ago. LA, Hollywood, same thing.
So one thing that did kind of come up, because we have shared these lists with each other, it's kind of cool, is we don't have the same list. We have we focused on some completely different things, and then there are some things that are almost like, damn, that must be a real good idea, because we both great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly. I guess let's take turns. We'll discuss night 1 and then night 2.
All right.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So for night 1, the first match that I have is it's one that you probably wouldn't expect to see on the WrestleMania card as of this moment, and that's because of the way that things have been being booked. But I really think that the booking is going to change starting next week when WWE comes to Netflix.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited.
I am too. With their ability to put out more adult programming, I really think this is the opportunity that the Wyatt Six have been waiting for to really shine, to really get to be more of a horror movie, and to really let Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, really come into his own as more of a horrific character and take that mantle. With that being said, I don't think there's a better opponent to give Uncle Howdy at WrestleMania night 1 than LA Knight. I think that would be a very fitting, almost tribute of a match that could also pick up on the story that LA Knight and Bray Wyatt left off on.
Yeah. I was a little caught off guard when I first saw this. I honestly had forgot about even thinking about booking them, like just being serious. And I think that's probably been the weak point of Triple H's booking is these guys have been featured and then they're not featured for a while. Featured, and I guess they're kind of an attraction thing. This whole feud with the Wyatt Six and Final Testament. I haven't been super excited about that. Don't get me wrong. I love Karrion Kross. He's a hell of a talent. I love his Jesse the Body Ventura impression. It cracks me up every fucking time I hear it.
Oh my god, that's so good. I want him to just, like, if he ever has to retire from injury, I want him to just go on tour with Chris Van Vliet as Jesse Ventura.
I just want him on commentary talking as Ventura.
I would take that. That's a second. But I'll take my thing first.
Get him and then Jay Lethal on commentary. Black Machismo and
Oh God, that'd be so hilarious.
that would be.
Jay Lethal is Macho and him is and Jesse
Yeah.
Ventura. That'd be great.
Yeah. Uh, so then I guess for my first one, um, I've got the Bloodline 2.0, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Solo Sokoa, and Jacob Batu versus the OG Bloodline and John Cena in an 8-man elimination tag match with John Cena picking up the win against Solo Sikoa. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, why I didn't try to book Cena into a title match. And originally, I thought about booking Cody versus Cena. I think we'll get Cena in a title match. I have no doubt in that. I think this closes out part of his storyline with the Bloodline. The Bloodline to OGs need to pick up, a credible win at a bigger stage than just War Games. This needs to be like decisive. This war, I don't think is over with though. I think this will be the next launching point for the next phase of it, where we'll see Dwayne, you can't see me, come back into the picture eventually.
I meant when we were talking in our little pre-show, I kind of alluded to the fact that The Rock is going to be a point of contention in this discussion
It
because
affects
it
everything.
really is a big mystery. Yeah, and that's the thing is there are so many multiple matches that can and could be affected by The Rock coming back. Both you and I had trouble deciding. I'm like, well, what do we do with this superstar if with The Rock is this big mystery, and so when I saw that on your list with Cena in there, I like that. I like because Cena has a history with the Bloodline, with Roman Reigns, with Solo
Hmm.
Sikoa. So
It's unique.
I thought it was clever booking. I also have a Bloodline 8-man tag booked in mind. We will get to that. That's on my night too. However, I do also have a John Cena match. But like you said you think he's going to be in a title match. I also think he's going to be in a title match. Last week I told you I think I got the perfect opponent for Braun Breaker, and that is John Cena. John Cena versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title has a whole bunch of benefits to me. Number one, if we want to put Cena over, there's only one belt in WWE that John Cena has never won, and that is the Intercontinental Championship. There's no way we're going to, I don't see a benefit in putting him in the world title picture this late in his career with this,
Fine with it further down the line. I think he needs to build back up towards it.
I can see that. I just don't want to, okay, I guess maybe a better way to say it is I don't want to see it at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I had considered in my first draft originally um, booking Cena to win the Royal Rumble, but then The Rock coming out at 31 and eliminating Cena, abusing his board of directors power, and like there was like a whole flurry of ideas with that. And I think if I knew for sure The Rock was going to be involved, I would have went that route because I think that really plays kind of circles back to 10, 12 years ago when they were facing off. But I just don't see the value in that. I don't see the value in it for Cena. I don't see the value in wasting my time trying to figure out if The Rock's going to be there or not. I do have The Rock included in my show in a lesser capacity.
I just like took him out of the equation.
Yeah,
For me,
I had
I'm
considered
not
that,
gonna
but
worry about him.
they wouldn't keep randomly bringing him back just to bring him back. This isn't Vince. Um, I do have Braun Breaker
But
defending the title.
he might keep bringing himself back just to boost the
Yeah,
audience.
I do have
But
Braun
Braun
Breaker.
Breaker, I think, would be a great opponent for Cena with the strength, both strength and speed is something that Cena and Breaker both have.
Hmm.
And when you both are able to bring out those qualities in each other, you can get some pretty explosive matches.
Yeah. I do have Braun Breaker in an IC title match. He's defending the IC title in a triple threat against Logan Paul and Sheamus,
Ooh.
another man who's only not held the Intercontinental title. I have Logan Paul cheating to win here, setting up a long-term feud for him and Sheamus, where Sheamus will eventually win the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam. Logan Paul's going to be a little shit on Raw. He can be a little shit heel for a while. Sheamus is active. I want him to get the honor now. We can get to Cena having the IC title later.
I can definitely. I don't have Sheamus listed out on my list, and that's maybe it's an oversight on my part. There was no way in 4 matches on each night that we were going to get
It's
to
hard.
everybody.
We're also working under the assumption that other people will be booked on these nights, and if I had to guess, it's probably going to be 7 matches each night.
I would say 7 to 8. Yeah. But Sheamus, you're absolutely right. His performances have only gotten better. He's become an extremely well-rounded member of the roster.
Yeah,
and
he's also.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed to revisiting that Gunther Sheamus rivalry in a world title program.
I had considered that. Full disclosure, I have taken the World Heavyweight Championship off of Gunther before we get to Mania. Full disclosure.
Oh.
I think it was a good opportunity. I don't think they've done well enough with it. I think he can get back up there one day, but I think to progress other people forward, Gunther needs to drop the belt.
I mean, I would have had Finn take it in that triple threat, personally. That's what I would have done already. But that's
Finn's the new Dolph Ziggler.
That's sad. That's sad. But it does bring me to my third match of night 1. And that is with Mr. Finn Balor taking on Dominic Mysterio for the leadership of the Judgment Day. They made a really big point about how Judgment Day doesn't have a leader. Meanwhile, very clearly seeming to, Finn always knows best. Just listen to Finn.
You win when you hear
Finn always wins. Yeah. Meanwhile, at the same time, if you've kind of noticed, whether it's Liv Morgan, Carlito, they're all kind of starting to back Dom. They're starting to back Dom specifically. Dom's the one who got the win over Damian. Dom's the one who, got the world title shot against Gunther. I think that's the match that we're building towards for WrestleMania. I know you have a different idea.
Yeah, so I do have Damian Priest and Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio all on my night 1 card. It's not part of my 4, but I have Dominic Mysterio actually winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I have him getting eliminated early, but nobody sees it, and I have him sneaking back into the ring, just like Austin did in '98.
Technically, Austin never got eliminated. He chased after McMahon.
He went over the top
rope. McMahon didn't get eliminated either.
Yeah, go back and watch it. I
really?
watched earlier. He went over the top rope, but he waited along ringside, and then when it was towards the end of that, he slithered back in because it was like that was the whole pushing point of being the Texas Rattlesnake. But I have Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell match. I want this feud over with. This is the conclusion it needs. Damian Priest goes over with an assist from Dominic Mysterio, who had been hiding under the ring, costing Finn Balor the match and kicking him out of Judgment Day.
Interesting. Now, I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question. This is a really legitimate question that I had for you, and I held it back to ask you on air here. So, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had. I would argue it's one of the best Hell in a Cell matches, of all time.
It is one of the best, and I almost didn't do Hell in a Cell. I considered 3 stages of Hell as something a little more unique. Hadn't been done in a while. But knowing Triple H, and he really likes to use Hell in a Cell to finish things,
That's like Jesus as a
this is a blood
stipulation.
feud waiting to happen. I think he could go either way. My point is I want Damian to go over here and then go to SmackDown, get away from Judgment Day, to be done with it. He heads off with a win. It sets up a feud for Finn as a babyface versus Judgment Day. That way, Finn gets his redemption later on.
It's so hard for me to imagine Finn. I know he's like I've seen Finn as a baby face. It's just he's such a better heel.
Definitely agree. But
You can't compare
I
like
think to
Prince
get
Devitt.
Dominic to that next level, it needs to happen.
That's fair.
That's my
fair.
point.
I just think. See, I think Dominic might be at that or coming up on that tipping point where he's such a good heel that he
turn.
turns himself babyface.
Yeah, and I think that will happen eventually. I think Judgment Day will end up turning itself, especially if the other members can get themselves over to that level. We could see a DX 2.0. Dominic's at that tipping point. I mean, he is a heel who turned heel while being heel. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's incredible.
And I
it's
think
the most
capitalize
incredible
on
heel
that
turn of
propels
all
him
time.
forward. Because if that happens where he turns babyface, and that's my long-term goal, I want CM Punk as the World Heavyweight Champion versus Dominic Mysterio. Dominic winning. Talk about shades of paying it forward, decades in the making.
Wow. That's okay. You got
goal.
some interesting thoughts.
Yeah, I've got little threads.
All right. My last match for night one is a match that Evan has a very similar match on his card for. So much so that I almost thought he stole it from me. Dead honest. I couldn't believe that you had this on your card as
I
well.
showed
All
you my
right.
notes.
So I know you did. You did. Fair. Fair is fair. All right. So I'm going to start with the team of the Motor City Machine Guns. Bang, bang. I'm going to add in a little bit of DIY. And how about we throw the Brotherhood, the former New Day, in there as well?
I need to hear New Day sucks chance. I'm keeping them the New Day.
That's fine.
The way it's chanted,
they've been being called the Brotherhood a lot, you know. But if you want to call them the New Day, I actually think they should still be called the New Day as well.
I think at this point, it's a new day for them. Like, change the music up, change the gear, but like, you still believe you're right and you're righteous. Stick with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like you kicked Big E out. You didn't like.
Yeah, you didn't.
Leave yourself.
New Day.
Yeah. He didn't take New Day with him. You are some. Yeah. I agree. All right. So we can call it New Day. So New Day versus DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns in a WrestleMania Classic. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Let's call it back to the days of Edge and Christian, Bully Ray, and Devon, and the Hardy Boys, my brother.
Speaking
what do you think?
I like it. I like it so much that I went and got one of those teams and brought them back again. My night 2 has the exact same match type, 3 teams that you mentioned, and a fourth actually, because you mentioned the Hardy Boys. I have the Hardy Boys returning to a tremendous pop for their final Hall of Fame run in the WWE. I have New Day going over. I have them tipping the ladder over and Jeff Hardy landing hard, and then Xavier Woods and them reaching up and grabbing the tag titles, getting them nuclear heat. To hearing New Day sucks. New Day sucks.
I think this is one where I think it's DIY's time to shine
I can see
and get
that.
the tag team and get the win here. But I do think that, especially regardless of whether the Hardys are involved at all, I understand you want to cripple old men, six out of six. You're gonna Matt Hardy's actually gonna be broken after you're done with him. That's all I know.
Skeet, skeet.
Um, but you talk about the Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, and the New Day. Those three teams adding in the element of ladders and the creativity of those guys. This has WrestleMania classic in the making, and the fact that you and I came up with a match that was one team off
Yeah,
of each other this far out.
yeah,
I think that Triple H, you need to book this shit.
yeah. Truth be told, I also wanted an even number of baby faces and heels in the match. I like the 8-man TLC versus the 6-man. It's got a nice even appeal to it. There's a lot of action going on. And also, if you really want to have some interference and you really want to do something interesting, you could throw a wrench in it. Maybe Big E comes back and screws the New Day.
That was actually what I was going to say. That's actually how I think that's how the New Day is taken out of it. I think they're going for the belts. You had Big E come out and push the ladder over, take
Yeah,
out
which that was
the
also
New
a thought
Day,
process
and
I had there too. I just, and I having DIY retain.
it's the safest thing. It's the safest spot you could put Big E in.
Hmm. He doesn't have to bump. He doesn't have to violate Lloyd's of London. You know, um,
And the pop would be huge.
it would be, and it gets him a Mania moment. Even though he might not,
Mm-hmm.
wrestle again.
Yeah, it might
Well,
not be the Mania moment he always wanted, but at least he gets one. Yeah,
for my
exactly.
final mid card match of the night, and I think we can talk about our main events and maybe like if we have ideas of how it'll unfold. Um, I have Nia Jax taking on Becky Lynch, who wins the Women's Royal Rumble. Becky Lynch goes over, but it's Tiffy time. Tiffy cashes in on Becky, gets the heat heading into a new season. The money with Becky's always in the chase. What better way to do it than have her chase a chicken shit heel? It also lets Nia still be relevant. Nia could be a heater for Tiffany. Teach her how to be
That'd
cute.
be almost so you're looking at Nia almost becoming the Diesel to Tiffy's HBK.
Like a reverse of how
I kind of
HBK
like that. I kind of like that. Like
A lot of
like
people are like, "Oh
as
no,
long
not
as
Nia
they
Jax."
have as long as they have the title, it's okay.
Hmm.
Like they kind of work that out where it's their title together.
Yep.
I like that. I also like that you went with that half of the women's division because I also have a women's match on mine for night two. And I guess it'll be my first match I bring up of night two. Um, Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair. We've been waiting to find out just who attacked Jade Cargill, who took out Jade Cargill, and I'm sorry, we've seen babyface Bianca Belair for years.
It's a little stale.
I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a fresh coat of paint on there. I want to see these two go at it. Like they're two of the most talented women on the roster. I want to see them have a feud with each other. The only thing that I was really kind of thrown off by, I almost made this a triple threat and threw Bailey in the mix. Um, and this harkens all the way back to Survivor Series, and there could be a real question about Bianca putting it on Bailey. Bailey, you're the one who attacked Jade. Jade comes back, no, you're the one who attacked me and you knew it all along. Bailey turns around. You were coming after me when you're the one who fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's some interesting interplay. And I like the idea of if Bailey was to get thrown in the mix there, of her getting to almost be a tweener character, because I like the attitude that she had as a heel, but I don't like her as a heel,
That's because she
if
was a
that makes
Karen.
sense.
That's fair. Nobody likes a Karen. Speaking of Karens, bold prediction: Chelsea Green will steal the show on night 2 in some
Doesn't
capacity.
Chelsea Green steal the show every night?
Yeah, Matt Cardona, you're a lucky guy. um, yeah, I mean, I think we both had really solid night ones. And as far as Jade versus Bianca, I like the story you put together. My only point of contention would be how legit of a long-term injury, because they were saying she had a lot of injuries. Who knows what was kayfabe, what wasn't? If it's true that she's going to be out for a longer time, you know, maybe she returns at SummerSlam. I think there's a lot of legs to what you're pitching. Because when I first saw it, I was just like, hmm. The way I currently see it in my mind, I think Bianca and Naomi are the ones that attacked her. Double kill.
That would be interesting.
Hmm.
That would be interesting.
That's just how in my mind is like playing out. As for the night one main event, um, we both believe CM Punk and Roman Reigns will be in a main event. I have CM Punk um, cashing in his favor with Paul Heyman, having Heyman screw Reigns out of the Rumble win. It's the come to Jesus moment for because Reigns hasn't apologized to anybody. He hasn't taken accountability for how he's treated people. This is that fall from grace when even the wise man turns on you, even with tears in his eye.
Mm-hmm.
While Roman's sitting out for a month, Punk defeats Gunther at the following pay per view for the World Heavyweights Championship, and Punk feuds with Punk's a heel. He's much better heel than he is a babyface. I mean, he got over as a babyface in the summer of Punk in WWE, but his work as a heel there was just fantastic. CM Punk versus Damian Priest for a month could be gold. You could get Punk versus Undertaker vibes from that, and it'd be a good way to get Damian Priest more main event exposure. Punk cashes in his favor to fuck Reigns out of the main event basically. Punk, now being World Heavyweight Champion, is in the main event. Enter Roman Reigns savagely attacking him at the end of that pay per view. And I mean, busting Punk open. Right, like Reigns is snapped. We get Roman Reigns versus CM Punk Night 1 main event. The Bloodline 2.0 will attempt interference, but Seth Rollins and the Bloodline OG will make the save. Roman Reigns overcomes the odds. Punk finally gets his WrestleMania main event, and we get to see Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns heal a little bit together.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Not what I have written even in the slightest, though. And I think a lot of that comes down to that big question, like we alluded to earlier, of The Rock. We don't know what The Rock is going to do, and that that factor for me is game changing because The Rock is involved. I do see the Civil War continuing through WrestleMania, but as I mentioned, I have not booked The Rock into my plans here. If he shows up and decides he's going to change him, he's the boss. But
He is the final boss.
the final boss. However, I do have an 8-man tag planned for night 2. That would see, and this is actually all, and I want to preface this. This I will actually start with Raw next week with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. So the idea is Roman and Solo, they go at it for the Ulafala. Roman wins, reunites the bloodline. Now the whole bloodline is together, more powerful than ever. And we end and full on heel. Like, as you mentioned, Roman hasn't apologized for shit. Like, while I understand not wanting to turn Jey Uso heel, I would understand that part of it.
That's a gamble.
It is, but hey, this is what I have written down. So, for night 2, I have the Usos teaming with Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu to take on the team of Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, he's part of the bloodline. That's part of the thing. Sami, even with the recreation of the bloodline, they were telling him, you're not family. When he showed up for them, they weren't even sure about it. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Whereas Kevin Owens, even after Sami went through all the things that he went through the first time around with the bloodline, KO had his back. KO didn't like what he was doing when he was teaming with Jay and working with Jay and stuff, but he didn't go after Sami. He went after Cody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see that Orton is going to see the light and understand what KO was trying to say, and that's why he's been gone for so long. I think Sami is going to come around to KO's side, and I think that Drew and KO have been just waiting to team up for months. That being said, I do think the bloodline goes over in that match. There you go.
Interesting. I do have Drew McIntyre in the card for night 2, but I don't have Drew McIntyre at the start of the show. I have Drew McIntyre in the main event versus Cody Rhodes. I'll get to that.
That's not a bad main event. That's not a bad main event. I'm waiting to hear more on that.
So
you want to do it now?
I have the ladder match on night 2. I don't like mixing TLC and Hell in a Cells on the same pay-per-view nights. It's too much. So I'll move. I have a triple threat women's world heavyweight championship match. I have the champion Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan versus Charlotte Flair. With Charlotte
the champion Rhea. Wait. You think Rhea Ripley is going to win the championship before WrestleMania?
Yes, I think she'll win it on Netflix.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I could see them keeping it on Liv the whole time if they really wanted to, but going this route, this gets Charlotte closer to her dad's number because I kind of want that to be done at this point. But I think we get a babyface Charlotte Flair return, and she Rhea and ending the Liv and Rhea feud, but keeping Liv can take the pin there or the tap out. So Mommy still looks strong. Mommy can move on to feud with people like Bianca, Bayley, new faces. Have her feud with Tiffany. Charlotte can then move on and face other younger talents as well. Because the women's division's deep, but the main event in the women's division's kind of been stagnant for a minute. Refreshing.
And then we got to keep Rhea. And then we got to keep Rhea and Jade away from each other for a whole calendar year, so we can have them face off at the next WrestleMania.
But I want Vince likes big sweaty men slapping meat. Why can't we get
Vince isn't around anymore, buddy? This ain't Vince's WWE anymore.
Big fucking grapefruits.
Well, I got a fun one. I got a fun one to talk about. I have an opening match. I have a match to open the show on night 2. And this one harkens back to WCW Monday Nitro. The good old days. I remember, flipping on Monday Nitro. What was the first match you always saw on Monday Nitro?
Cruiserweights.
Cruiserweights. That's right. Because cruiserweights, man, they're exciting. They're fun. They're fast. They're energetic. It's a great opening match for a show. And I don't think that there's any better cruiserweight in the world than Rey Mysterio. Dan, I don't want to think about Dan. Thinking about sweaty men.
Picturing him with one of those
one of the best. You got me all discombobulated. One of the best cruiserweights of all time, Rey Mysterio, and I want to see him go 1-on-1 with Penta Zero.
I actually have that match.
We've seen the vignettes. Give it to me.
It's literally on my cutting room floor because we agreed to 4 matches each. I have the same match as like number 5, 6 on one of those nights. It has to happen. I need it to happen. I still think Ray's retirement match is going to be against his son once he wins the World Heavyweight title. It makes perfect sense.
That would be cool.
No, I great minds think alike. I think it's the perfect way. Ray's only got so many years left. Penta has. I don't recall have him and Ray faced before. Maybe in Mexico they faced off.
Maybe in Mexico. I think they might have in Mexico, but definitely not on this kind of stage.
Yeah. I have a fun match, little unique. Where I have a babyface Gunther versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the U.S. title. Now, hear me out. After Gunther loses the World Heavyweight Championship to Punk, he has a crash out. He's no longer the ring general. Ludwig Kaiser has abandoned him. His fans, his Imperium have all abandoned him. The ring general needs to find his fighting spirit. In order to chop down a demon like this new Shinsuke Nakamura, the ring general versus strong style. Chops, 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 kicks, chops, chops. I think it's just a good, solid, high action match. I have AJ Styles returning after Gunther wins confronting him.
Okay, I got to admit, until you pitched it just now, I didn't see the vision. But the idea of Gunther's chops measured against Shinsuke's kicks, going full on strong style. Like we had it. Like there's so few times when we've got to see Shinsuke go full strong style, but against Gunther, I totally believe it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, that is good stuff, man. That is really good stuff.
I needed an idea that was a little unique because I was like, it's Ray versus Penta or this? And my gut told me Brian's probably gonna have Ray versus Penta too. So let's go with this. Yeah, I think we've got one more match each, and then our main events, huh?
Well, I've only got the one left because I only did 4 for each. I only wrote down 4 for each. But I will go ahead and I'll get mine. I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way here. So Gunther is in my other main event, and that is going to be a fatal 4-way. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther versus Damian versus Seth Rollins. Again, I don't know what The Rock is frickin' doing.
I mean, it's unique.
I had so many matches in this spot that I played with in different ways, and ultimately I went with this because I was like, well, 3 of these guys have already been kicking around the main event scene on Raw, and we need something to do with Cody Rhodes. Because ultimately, the booking with Cody has been kind of weird.
It's been very weird, much like Daniel's comment there. Daniel's not allowed to book anything.
Just what do we call those guys? The skyscrapers?
Twin Towers.
I had some other ideas that I kicked around. I thought a Ludwig Kaiser Seth Rollins program could actually go really hard.
Seth was one that I had a hard time figuring out what to book him with, because the logical one would have been him versus Bronson Reed.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just like off the table now. Yeah, obviously, if Bronson Reed hadn't gotten injured, him and Seth that's the most logical answer. That's the easiest. But with that not being on the table, I feel like we still have to do something high profile with Seth. I feel like Damian needs something high profile. Gunther needs something high profile. And throwing them out there with Cody.
Yeah. And I mean, the low-hanging fruit would be Seth versus Punk, which they've kind of teased a little bit, but I don't think they're willing to do that just yet. I think they want to build a little more towards that. I definitely can see where you're going with that, with your logic there. Like you said, the booking around Cody's been kind of really, really weird. Up until this feud with KO, it's kind of just been, I'm Cody Rhodes, I'm gonna win the day, yeah, Super Cody, like Super Cena from 2007 through 2010. That said, I think The Rock being such an X factor it's a really hard thing, and it made it a lot harder to book the show. That version of notes that I sent you was my sixth attempt at trying to actually come up with ideas. Like, that's just
this is one of the more challenging. We've done this before with plenty of shows at different times where we've done the little booking thing. What could happen. John Cena versus CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Randy Orton versus Gunther at Fastlane for the World Heavyweight Championship. How about no, Scott? I feel okay. So Dan, I'm just going to be honest with you here. I'm looking at it, and like, you got a whole bunch of high profile names, but you're not giving me a reason why these guys are going to be going after a belt on different shows and things. Excuse me. I assume Fastlane, you're talking about the Elimination Chamber, and we can talk about the Elimination Chamber because I do think that the Elimination Chamber is ultimately going to have a big part to play in setting up our main events for WrestleMania, because I think the big thing is whether it's the first Raw on Netflix next week, whether it's the Elimination Chamber, some titles need to shift around. Evan and I, that's one thing that both of us have. There's some little tweaks that need to be made to get the pieces into place for WrestleMania. And that's whether they go with this or what Evan has written or what they have written, which I'm sure is different. Daniel Roberts, not gonna lie, I need to see Cena win his 16th world title. That has to be done. Okay, we got a couple of minutes. We can talk about this. All right, so both Evan and I had the opportunity to book out these shows, and both of us had the opportunity to potentially put John Cena into World Heavyweight Championship matches, and neither of us did. And I think the reason, we both kind of said it. Neither of us are opposed to seeing Cena contend for a world title again, but that doesn't mean it needs to happen at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm fine with him breaking the record. I am.
Me too.
I just don't think it needs to happen at Mania. SummerSlam? Sure. Survivor Series? Sure.
Survivor Series. I would be really cool. I win the title and then lose it a month later and go out on your back and let that be
Yeah.
your finish.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's A-okay with me.
Like, there's a lot of different ways that Cena could do it. I just don't think. But here's the thing: is when you're talking about WrestleMania, at bare minimum, you're talking about storylines that have been being built up since January,
Yeah.
since the Rumble. A lot of times you're talking about storylines that have been built up since November, October, the summer, even a year going back. And so when you're talking about that much buildup to automatically push someone like John Cena or The Rock, into that main event, that's where it becomes a little jarring.
Yeah, and it's Vince like booking to do that. Like I just think that and watching Cena's interviews lately and listening to them, he talks about paying it forward in the business and building on the future. I don't think Cena wants that. I think he's content with being 16-time champ. I'm fine with it. I know many people are fine with it, and it's low hanging fruit. This is also supposed to be a challenge.
I mean, realistically, you know, okay, Dan, let me toss this at you. Both Evan and I had Punk versus Roman for a title in the main event of WrestleMania. How much more interesting would it be for you to see Punk as world champion facing John Cena at King of the Ring?
It would be gold. Well, and if anyone's
You
gonna
get
break
the you
that
get the
record,
return match, you get that history,
if
and
anyone,
and you
yeah,
don't have to sully your WrestleMania main event.
if anyone's gonna break that record, in my opinion, I think it's going to be Randy Orton. That's just my opinion. And I don't think he'll.
Orton Orton is definitely a deserving wrestler. He's
Yeah,
incredibly talented, and he's got the long. And we've kind of talked. We said several times tonight about some of those guys who we've watched go from early on in their career to becoming those seasoned guys who are really the foundation. Now your Sheamuses, your Randy Orton, um, your real mainstays of the industry now.
mhm.
I'd be cool with seeing Randy Orton tie the record,
Yeah, I'm fine
beat
with
the
it.
record potentially.
Speaking of Randall, my last match for the night has Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens in a Vegas street fight. Randy Orton returns at the Royal Rumble, taking out Kevin Owens, hitting a fancy RKO, and then getting eliminated by Roman Reigns. It's quite simple. Vegas street fight. Orton going over. He needs his get back. Kevin goes for the package pile driver, gets reversed, and he turns around right into the RKO.
I like it. I don't know how I feel about Orton losing, or sorry, KO losing, only because I feel like okay. So I worry about KO being in that Bray Wyatt kind of territory of I can get to the main event 1,000 times, then I just lose.
Yeah, I think KO's going to lose a bunch, especially as he's facing Cody. He does need a get back. He's looking strong. His package pile driver. I think once he moves on from Cody, having him feud with someone like a top babyface like LA Knight, I think would be great. Have him feud with Jey Uso, that'd be great. Package pile
Mm-hmm.
driver, Jey Uso. There's a lot of options you can do there. I think to close out that part of the story though, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens were tag partners to start it off during last Mania season.
That's
So
true.
I think we need to close that loop. And that's why I booked it this way. Uh, and then
Well,
my
one way
main,
or another, we both got KO and Randy together in a match.
I
I
guess
guess
it's
that's
true.
that's something.
Um, my main event for the night, since I mentioned it, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. I have what might be a very shocking twist, but I have The Rock helping Drew McIntyre beat Cody Rhodes on Night Two's main event. They've been pitching this whole thing that there was only one person that contacted Drew while he was out when he was injured kayfabe, but it was a death in the family. There's only one person that got Drew to sign back with WWE. It was The Rock. It's the whole thing they've been pushing. What if we get the swerve of the century? It's not The Rock building up the Bloodline 2.0. He's already got that angle covered. He's letting Solo and them handle it. We have The Rock give his golden blessing to Drew McIntyre. Drew gets his shining moment in front of the fans. The crowd goes home, kind of happy, kind of sad. It also lets Cody lose to a top guy in a protected way, and it allows him to move on to leading up to Cody Rhodes turning heel and McIntyre getting a fresh start.
Okay, I will get in on this. I will get down on this with you, but you have to give me something.
What do I have to give you?
Something small. Okay. As part of this build-up, I need for Drew to tell us all that he needs to finish his story. Because it's poetic and it's fucking true. Like, Drew has been, like, you brought up a good point. Like, Drew has gone through these Mania. He went through the one with Bobby Lashley and kind of got fucked. And then the one last year and got fucked by Punk.
The one at COVID where there was
now,
he's been getting fucked.
Right.
Yeah. That was my logic behind this. This is Drew's moment in the Rock season.
And I like that. I actually like that a lot. I like that a lot. Kudos to you. I'm going to give you the golf clap. that, my friend, has a standard of greatness. They said it! Oh my god!
Oh my god!
You said the name of the show!
I did fucking better. Oh man, this has actually been quite a pleasure. We got a few minutes. Daniel, you got some questions for us, I assume?
While Dan, you're typing out that question, just go ahead and let everybody know. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of the Standards of Greatness podcast next week. I'm actually going to be at a party for the new Raw on Netflix, so I'll be watching it live. I'm sorry I won't be here to record.
That's okay. I'm going to be watching it live too, because once you told me you were going to be going to a party, I was like, well, I'll just watch it live and maybe stream some Yu-Gi-Oh content or Pokemon content throughout the day.
Sounds good. Would you want to see LA Knight and Jey Uso win the tag titles together?
I'd be fine with that.
I mean,
I think
I guess I'm not opposed to it, but I don't have a reason to say yes. To me, you're just like, I'm not just going to throw two baby faces together and go, now I want them to be tag team champions when they're both on good singles trajectories.
Yeah. Well, and they're both being pushed as Slim Jim reps. So, like, it's really interesting. They're, like, being pushed as modern-day Macho Mans. They're both getting, like, Jey Uso's got, like, the Lightning Macho Man glasses. LA Knight's got the jacket, the vest.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it, and they got catchy catchphrases. They're both talented guys. I loved LA Knight when he was Eli Drake in NWA and TNA and all this stuff, and even as Max Dupree. I actually thought
he'll deny that one even exists.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with it. I just don't think it makes sense right now. I also think they don't want to keep Jey Uso away from the tag division. They're trying to establish him as a star. I think they're planning on bringing up new tag teams. Person I feel bad for here is Jimmy Uso. He keeps getting injured. But yeah, I mean, there's a world where I could see Jey Uso being world heavyweight champion or WWE heavyweight champion in a year or two.
I think honestly you're going the wrong way with it, Dan. rather than see LA Knight and Jey Uso as tag champs, I'd rather see those two in a 6-month feud over like the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, I think that would be
Or
great.
building
A
up
US
to the
title or
Intercontinental
like
Championship.
something.
Like, I think
You know,
those are two guys. You know, you talk about, okay, LA Knight and Jey Uso are two guys who are up and coming singles mid card stars right now. And if you were to put them together right now and have that in the right way, I think it could be a lot like The Rock and Triple H were to each other. You know, both in the mid card and then in the main event scene.
yeah. I would really like it if they would stop using the super kick as his finisher. I think he needs a new finisher. I don't care what you say. That frog splash is not his finisher. Like it's
I'd do a real frog splash.
yeah, it's like let me fly on you, flying bee, Mighty Duck style.
Yeah, just do a real frog splash. Who's the next big signing from AEW to WWE in your opinion?
I mean, Penta, I think, is obvious.
Yeah, Penta is the easy answer because he's more or less already been announced.
Ricky Starks. I think Ricky Starks could definitely, especially with being buds with Cody Rhodes. I have a bold prediction. Powerhouse Hobbs will be in the WWE within the next 2 years.
I could see that.
He's absolutely jacked. He's talented. I think with the right booking, they could turn him into a star.
I think the second Will Ospreay's contract with AEW runs out, he signs to WWE.
I would be with you. They would probably have to work out that whole thing where him and Triple H are kind of taking digs at each other in the public.
They were, but Triple H only started taking digs because he didn't get him to sign. What he really wants is for him to sign, and Triple H can be charming when he wants to be. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I don't think that's
and
a hot take.
which show would you rather be on?
Well, yeah, I mean, AEW's on the decline,
I mean,
and I would not want to be there right now. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Ultimately, I would not.
That's low hanging fruit, Dave.
Unless I think Chris Jericho will be back in WWE in the next 2 years.
Next 2
for
to
the Hall of
5,
Fame.
be back there for a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. That's
low
hanging fruit.
I think we're gonna see something. If AEW can course correct, I think we're gonna see a rebirth there. I think we're gonna see some people make their way to AEW too.
Yeah, and good. Like
that's how it should work.
Here's the thing. Is like I think it's been very clear. Evan and I don't always agree with Tony Khan's booking decisions. But the one thing that I will give Tony Khan is he's willing to take risks. He's willing to try things. And if you throw enough shit at the wall, something's going to stick.
Like releasing the CM Punk footage and then claiming it's part of the reason you got the new TV deal?
Hey, double down on it, man. Just keep double down. Every decision was a good decision. Never admit your mistake.
Slap in, sweaty man. Call it the Vince double down because I got big grapefruits.
Terrible
decision. Shit up.
Oh God! All right.
Oh man. Well, I think that's gonna do it for us tonight. We will see you back here in 2 weeks. As always, enter the code at enforce2.com. It pops me. SOG24.
Enter the code SOG24. I got you. SOG24. SOG24 at enforce2.com to get 20% off your next order, and that'll make sure that you are HARD.
All right. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you then. Enjoy Raw next week, everybody, and we'll see you then.